Good evening. How are we all this evening? Just making sure I turn my mic on. And I don't know what I did there. I pressed the button not firmly enough. I hope we're all right this evening. And I don't think I need that on. Bear with me. Let me just flick it to the side. Okay. Right, think we're okay. Right. How are we all? It's nice that we do feel to be in spring. I mean, I know it went a bit cold and wet yesterday, but I take full responsibility for that because I hung some washing out. So I apologise in advance. That was my fault. Right. What are we going to do this evening? I have got an array of things on my desk. Look. An array. All sorts. Mainly this big stack here. Actually, oh, move that. That's an important one as well. We don't have a huge amount of this. This is our good morning, Lynn. Good morning. Good evening. Good evening. This is our fine embossing powder, the clear one. It's a 200ml pot. There is a lot in there, but I don't have a huge amount of them, and they're at a stupid price. They're on the website, so we'll be playing with that. But I just want to draw your attention to this stack here, and I might go to overhead camera if I move it back into the middle. I know some of you have already seen these on the website, but this is some of our double-sided tape we've got. This stack is all finger lift, and on the website you will see that it says two numbers. One is the largest number is the width of the actual roll, and the smaller one is the width of the actual tape. We also have one of them which is called flush edge. Now I don't know if you can see, but that tape runs down the middle. Flush edge means it goes tight to one side. So we have an array of thicknesses and sizes of rolls. That bottom one, 200 metres. 200 metres of double-sided tape. That should keep you out of mischief for a while. So we will be using this today, but I'm just going to take that roll off the top because that's the one I'm currently using, and I'm going to put the rest out the way while I show you what else we're going to play with. I'm going to play with this stamp set. I have stamped it out so you can see this is our rural view. There is country view on the website as well. It's a little scene building one. Okay, so we're going to be playing with that. We're going to be playing with mica powders. There's just a few of them. We're going to be playing with gilding flake and the clear embossing, and we're going to make one card definitely, which will cover a load of different techniques, and then I have got some other bits prepped as well depending on how we're doing on time. Okay, flick flick flick, and I am fully prepared. Look, got bits everywhere. Right, so that was just to show you that. So that's my background piece. We're going to start with a little piece. Now, I think I'm going to go landscape because I'm using landscapes. And then I've got some little die cuts here, which are going to go up there for safekeeping. So we're just going to start with the stamp set. Very simply, we're going to create a little scene. So when you're using stamps like this that are about creating a scene, you want to create a little bit of landscape for them to work on. Now I've just torn a piece of paper there that's going to give me hills. Now when you're doing something like this, your natural instinct is to do your hills like that, but actually that's masking off. What we want is the other bit. Okay, and I'm going to work on this piece of paper as well, so that I'm just going to do this very quickly, and I've just got some distress inks here. I went and found a green because for some reason I hadn't got a green, and for unusual for me, it's forest moss. I would normally have peeled paint for this, but I just grabbed the first green I'd got. Okay, so I'm just going to create a very simple little ground for my scene to go on. Okay, very, very simple. So I'm just inking it up. So we've got some hills. And by tearing the paper, we get a little bit more interest. I'm going to move that. Add another. I'm going to swap it round like that just to have another hill in the background, and I'm going to sort of fade this out a little bit. I just want to break it up. I'm not going for Landscape Artist of the Year here. I am just creating a little bit of scenery, and I want to break up. I'm using cream card for a reason. I'll explain why. I want this to look like a sort of very faded out painting, you know, the ones that used to be in the frame. It'd always have a really big fat frame with a big fat mount and then a little tiny picture in the middle, and that's the sort of look I'm going for. So I'm just adding a little bit of sky. If you wanted to protect your hills so that you're not covering them with sky, you can actually cover it up. Use the bit that I'm using to work on, but just for speed, just want to, and I'm going to go a little bit dark around the edge there just to sort of help frame it. I'm going to do the same with the green, just a little bit, just to sort of, for say, start a little bit of a frame. So very simply, you've got a very basic landscape. Then in this stamp set, you've got all sorts of different things. You've got some trees, you've got a farmhouse, you've got a bush, a single tree, a scarecrow and a sheep. So we can create our own little rural landscape. So I'm going to take off, I have got 2 blocks on the go here so that I can do this. And I'm going to stamp this. I think I'll go with VersaFine Claire in Pinecone. Okay, so I'm just going to create a very simple little scene. So I'm going to put it off. As tempting as it is to put it smack bang in the middle, try and put it off to one side. Okay, so you've got your little, and you could come in with your watercolour brush and colour that in and stuff, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm now going to do some more trees, and I'm going to, not going to fit on there, no. Sort of follow the hills that I've created, even though there's some hills in here as well. So you've sort of got a double whammy of landscape. So I'm going to sort of join that up with there. Okay, you're getting that nice little scene, and then you've got this little tree, sort of like a bushy hedge. What I'm going to use that for, I'm going to stamp it on my paper, and then I'm going to create like a little faded out ones in the background. Okay, just so it's like trees over the hills a little bit, or trees far away. But by fading it out, by doing second generation stamping, we're not pulling it to the foreground. It's giving you a little bit of depth. Okay. And then I'm going to do my big tree. Right, I don't know why I just did that, but it was off camera so you didn't see. Picked it up, went to stick it in the ink pad instead of on the block. It's a sign of how things are going. Right, so I want to do him there, and we'll have him up there. I think that's enough of him. So we're getting a nice little busy thing. Notice also there I stamped off the paper as well, because this if I was looking out of the window, it would continue off the page. So it's very, when you're doing landscapes like this, it's very tempting to just concentrate in the middle bit there and have nothing here. But that's not a realistic view of how you would look out. So yeah, try to stamp off the page as well. And if you've got a scrap bit of paper underneath, that always helps. Right, let's have our scarecrow, because he's just really cute. We'll have him down here. I mean, look at the detail of that. I mean, it's tiny, but there's so much detail. And then we're going to have some sheep, and I'm going to do a few sheep. Okay, so sheepy, sheep. We'll have a sheep over here and one under the tree. So we've got our little scene there, our little landscape. Ever so easy. You've got all the I mean, you could do a long thin one if you wanted to. And as I say, you could come in with, let me see what coloured pencils I've got underneath here. An unsharpened one, that's very unlike me. Tells me that colour's not popular. Right, I'll have that one. Let's add a little bit, just another one that's not sharpened. That's very, I would have thought green I would have used a lot. There's quite a few unsharpened ones in there. I have to find my pencil sharpener. So just going to add a little bit. Just so that we've got a different green. Just lightly. So I'm not going for hyperrealism. I'm also wanting it to look a little bit distressed because of what we're going to do to it in a minute. Okay, just come in with this different green. Really just barely touching the pencil down there, just to add a little bit of green to add a bit more to that tree. As we come nearer to the foreground, press a little bit harder so you're putting a bit more colour down. But this could be your distress markers, this could be your crayons, this could be watercolours, just to add a little bit of oomph to it. Is that blue? That'll do. I just want to add a little bit to the roof. Let's say I could get my watercolour brush out just to give a little bit of distinction there. It's a bit sort of bluey, but that's fine. And I think I'm happy. I think I'm happy with what I'm wanting on that. Okay, so very, very simple there. Now, what I've got here is some double-sided adhesive that I'm going to peel off, and I've cut it to the right size, which is always a scary thing to do when you're demonstrating, because it's like, am I going to mess this up now and get it crooked? So normally I would cut bigger. Right, so I've peeled off one backing. Okay, and I'm laying it down on top. I am breathing. Press it down firmly, not quite lined up, but close enough. Okay. Don't worry about the red, that is the backing. And then I'll try and get this corner started. Where's my awl? I had it a second ago. It's in my pencils, isn't it? Right, so I'm just trying to get in. Oh, it's always tricky. Right, all time. So just, it's getting you a starting point. So if you go bigger, you've obviously got a little bit of an advantage. Oh no, it's, come on, you want to come off. It's just, it's like double, this is why the finger lift tape's so good. I should have just covered it with double-sided tape, which you can do obviously, but sometimes, oh, we're a bit down there. Come on, there we go. Well, as I say, once you get it started, it's easy. And then it flicked back. Right. Okay, so we're going to come in now with our big pot of clear embossing powder. Now, generally, I would say with this, decant your pot down a little bit, because if you're a slightly messy crafter, you might have stray bits of other embossing powder or ink or something on your work surface. You might find that you're going to contaminate your pot. So I have like little Tupperware tubs and things like that I decant it down into, so that I'm not using my big giant pot, so that when I tip it back in like that, because obviously it's fluffed up, it can overflow, and B, I'm not contaminating it. Right, so I've got this completely covered now with clear embossing powder. So obviously we're going to have to heat set it. Now, because I'm using the double-sided sheet to hold it in place, it's actually a little bit easier because you can whack it straight up to full thing because it's well held on. And I'm going to go right across, and you can see it changing as I'm going along. But you'll notice it's got that really sort of antique-y look because we're doing it with adhesive there. It just has a slight yellow vintagey tinge to it. Okay. Keeping it warm, and I am going to do another coat. Now, again, it will stay sticky because the adhesive underneath stays warm. You do have, can you see it's held a bit more powder on. You do have a little bit more time to work with. Okay, so you can just relax when you're doing it. Okay, so I just love this kind of vintage feel you get with this. Okay, so just keep an eye. I have to stand at a slight angle. You can see it's starting to go. And always remember, when you're doing heat embossing, you move your heat gun slowly, you don't waft. Okay. Now, remember that corner that I was peeling off and it lifted the tape? I didn't press it back down, and I've got this really cool sort of wrinkle effect there. I love it. But if you weren't happy with that, you would just put a little bit more down there. Just notice I've missed a bit there. But can you see you've got that lovely sort of vintagey look. Now, if I was to pop that in the freezer, I could actually crackle it. But for the best crackling, you really want to go sort of 3 coats. But I'm only going to go 2 here. But let me just go to the side camera. Look at that, isn't it? It just looks like it's been really aged, and you know, it's been hanging on the wall for a good while, and it's faded out a little bit. Okay, so that's our main focal point of our card. Just what we're going to now do is create some interest on the frame. Okay, so I've got a bit I've cut bigger. Now I'm just going to have a little bit of a clean up. So I'll turn that over. I'm going to come in with my double-sided tape, and I'm going to create a frame around the edge. Everything's got embossing powder on it. So I'm going to use the edge of the tape and line it up with the edge of my card. Okay, and then I'm going to peel that back so it's finger lift. Peel it back a little bit so that I can put this one up to it, because obviously being finger lift, if I didn't, you would have a little gap. Okay, I can pop that down now until I'm ready for it. So just the very end we're lifting up. Okay, it's only because the rolls are quite big that I'm cutting a bit off. You could use it off straight off the roll. So trying to line that up with the edge of your card so that we know we've got a little edge around, a little even edge. Okay, is that going to be enough? No. So this is what I do. Any bits I've cut off that are too short for what I'm doing, I just literally stick to the top of the roll because I'm bound to use it later. So remember, lift that end a little bit. Come in and line that up to the edge of your card. Lift that end as well. and then that one can overlap there. Okay, trim off any, come on scissors, any excess there. And when you're trimming off excess like that, it's easier to turn it over. Okay, so what we're going to have is a sticky frame, okay, which we're going to peel off now. So peel that bit off, peel that one off, but it's got a frame around it, so it should peel that one off where they're stuck to each other sometimes. There we go. So can you see I've got a little frame there? So what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with our gilding flake. Okay, I think this is autumn something. Okay, so I'm just putting pinches of it around and then working it in to that tape. I can come in with another pinch there if I want, but I'm not. I'm going to flick all those bits in, and then when I'm happy that I've got enough on there, I can just start working it in with my finger, and you'll see it start to take on to the sticky. So these loose bits on the top, you gently brush them along and they'll start to fill in the gaps. So these bits over here, brush them in and then just start to work them in so they'll stick to that sticky. So those edge bits there that were just overhanging. And by doing it this way, you're not wasting a load of, you don't do it like you do your embossing powder. You just put it on and then work it in. So all these little bits around the edge, I can just bring in with my little sweeping blusher brush. And as blusher brush is as firm as you want to go. Don't be buying no scratchy, spongy things, because you actually can hear them scraping on the gilding flake and taking away that lovely shine. Okay. So you're getting that lovely straight edge there because we're using the tape. So once you're happy that you've worked that in, take out the hair. I was going to say that looked like an Oscar hair, but I don't think it is. And now you've got your frame, which your little card will then sit on top of. Now if you feel that that's still got a little bit of sticky, there's a little bit there that I can feel a little bit of sticky. Now I can come in with these stray bits here and just work those in. The other thing to do is go and grab one of your mica powders, and I'm going to come in with this like yellowy goldy colour. Dip your blusher brush into it and just dust along. Okay, and just work that in. So that's going to act like when you use talcum powder to get rid of the sticky, but instead it's also adding a nice extra shimmer. So you've got metallic from the gilding flake, and then you've got the iridescence of a mica powder, and then just give that a little work in, and now it's not sticky at all. Any little gaps you've missed have gone, and you've got that extra shimmer to it. Right, quick sweep up, and then we're going to move on to some embellishments for our little card. So, but you see what I was saying about that old-fashioned frame? I think that's definitely got a feel of it. Now, I'm not actually a fan of this cream here, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my walnut stain and actually ink that away. I thought I would like it, but then having done it now, I'm not as happy. So I'm going to take it away with a little bit of walnut stain. And I think that's just looks, I just think it wasn't what I was hoping it would. But this is the joy of things. Always say, go one step further. If you're not happy with something, go one step further. That's giving me more the vibe of a picture frame. Okay. There we go. And round that last side, and then we'll see, compare it, and I think that's going to be a lot nicer. Yeah, and just to give it, because obviously we're working on a mucky card there. Doesn't that have that sort of, this reminds me so much of a picture that used to hang in my grand's house. Okay, I'm going to tape that in now. Remember that bit of tape I stuck on the top of my roll in case I needed it? There you go, that's got used. So, double-sided tape. I'm using double-sided tape more. I used to use it all the time. I used to have a tape runner and everything. But I'm using it more now because of the sort of instantness of it. That's not even a word. Immediateness of it. Instantness. Because I love my wet glue, and you know I love my wet glue, but sometimes I just want things to stay put pretty much straight away. Right, there we go. Actually, I kind of like it on a jaunty angle, and then do the yeah, I might do that. Got my pen somewhere. You know, do a little hook, and then the chain coming down so it looks like it's hanging on the wall. I might do that. I haven't decided yet, but just was it hanging there. Right. I want to now make some embellishments to go on it. So what I have done is I have already punched some flowers out with an old punch, and I've die cut some, I think they're leaves. I'm going to use them as leaves. They're going to do as leaves. And I want one way, one the other. So we're going to emboss these up, heat emboss these up. Now I am going to use ink for this because it's a smaller area. So I'm just going to take my flower, press it in so it's got a nice coating on it. I'm going to do 2 flowers. Now I would normally say do these individually. I'll do the flowers and then I'll do the leaves. I'll move the leaves out of the way for a minute. Okay, so back to our clear embossing. And something like this, you can actually dip it into the pot as well. Save having to do that. And have tweezers or something like an awl nearby so that you can pick them up without getting your fingers covered in embossing powder, because you've also got ink on your fingers because you've just stuck your flower straight in your ink pad. You know the saying, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so I'm just going to heat set these. 1, 2. Now obviously these are quite small, so they might want to fly off. So I'm just holding it down with my awl. Badly holding it down with my awl. So watch it start to go. Chase it around the room. I mean, I could be more patient and use my heat gun on the slower setting, but as we all know, patience is not my virtue. Right, and I want to do a couple of layers here because I want these to be quite glassy. So, because I was messing about, they will have cooled down, so I can't do the usual trick of, you know, just sprinkling the powder on. So it doesn't matter. Apply more ink to it. it doesn't matter. Okay, there's no, disadvantage to that. You just have to wait for it to cool down, otherwise you stick your flower to your ink pad. Okay, so flick that off, flick that off. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 coats on these. Right. And I'm back into here. I'm going to work on this piece of card. I have got another piece if I do decide to. Okay, move that up a bit so you can see. Okay, so that's got a nice glass to it. And so's that one. Right. So, obviously they're very stark black, and I don't want them to be black. I want them to be pretty. So I have got my mica powder here again. So same thing with the blusher brush, dip it in, and then I'm just going to dust a little bit of this on the top. Now obviously at the moment this is just sitting on the top of the embossing powder, so if I was to wipe, it would all come off. So we need to do something. Now normally with mica you would add a bit of moisture to it, but obviously this has got your embossing powder under there, which makes it kind of waterproof, so it's not going to have anywhere to go. So what we want to do is actually reheat it, because what that does is that melts the top surface of the embossing powder and lets the mica sink in. So the only way I can describe it is you'll see it do a little dance. It does like a little shiver, and that means, let's see if we can get you to see that. So watching this one, do you see it? It does like a little shiver, and that's it sinking in to the embossing powder. Now look at them. They're more in keeping with the colour scheme we've got, and I've just wiped. That was still warm. Bear with me. I'm just going to repair that. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that in. And then we'll dust another bit of mica onto that. It's still warm. Just goes to show it can stay warm, but as you can see, because I've repaired it, it's now got a harsh black middle, which we don't want. So I'm just going to pick up some of the mica that's around, dust that on. There we go. And I'm flicking it in because it might still be warm. Heat set that in. Okay. So I think that's much more in keeping with the feel that we're creating here, that vintagey feel. Obviously they're going to be off the card a little bit more like that. Right, these leaves, let's do something different with these. Still want them to have embossing powder on, and I still want to introduce mica, but we're going to do it in a different way this time. So I just need to find something I can mix in. Might have to be the lid of, yeah, it's going to be the lid. Right. Normally I do this in little bags, but just for now I'm going to do it in the lid of my embossing ink. Okay. So I've got my clear embossing powder, and I want to add some mica to it. Now, when you're adding mica into clear embossing like this, it's going to look like you haven't put enough in. But actually, because the embossing powder is white at this stage, it's going to be like adding white paint to it. It's going to dull it down and make it look like it's not very intense. But obviously, as it starts to melt and the embossing powder goes clear, the full intensity of the mica will come through. But if we mix too much mica in at this stage, when we do the clear embossing ink and then drop our embossing powder onto it, if we've got too much mica in there, what happens is the mica clings to the die cut and the embossing ink, and not the embossing powder. So then we can't heat set it because it hasn't got any powder in it. Okay, so you really don't need very much at all. So I'm just using the blade of my knife to get a pinch. Okay, and then we mix that in. That's a bad sound. I'll use a pencil for that. Okay. So you see what I was saying about the colour? It doesn't look very bright at all there. Okay. So just give it a little stir. And at this stage, you can also add in some table salt. And what that will do is that will give you some granules that won't melt, so that you'll have a little bit more texture to it. Bit like a sort of a distress embossing powder, because obviously the salt doesn't melt. Okay, so it will give you a bit more texture. Right, so that's our homemade embossing powder made. And I say normally I would do that into a little bag or a little pot with a lid so that you can save it, because obviously you know that you're not going to need a huge amount to do these tiny leaves. Okay, on it that way. I want them going opposite directions. So okay, so now we come in with our homemade embossing powder, our own colour. Nobody else will have this colour, and you can mix your embossing, you can mix your micas together and make your own blends. Okay. But it does give a very different look to when you sink it in, and we'll see that. Tip it back in the pot or whatever receptacle you've used, and then we're going to heat set these. Now, because we've put that salt in, it will not be as glassy as normal. It's getting warm quite quickly, so I'm going to do another coat on there, just because the colour is really fabulous. It's almost like a peacocky colour. So let's do that, and I'm hoping you'll be able to see this colour. I'll try and move the heat gun out of the way. Can you see that colour? Let's go. Can't pick it up yet. Yeah, not yet. If I go, can you see that fabulous greeny bluey colour? Okay, so that's one. And did you notice that it was a little bit more textured because of that salt we put in? Okay, come here. Come on. You want to be melted. You know you do. Okay, so one coat. Warm it a little bit. I'm going to do another coat just because I did on the other one. You see, I mean, I only put a tiny amount. I mean, look, this pot is still absolutely ram-packed. So much embossing powder here. And then when the fact that you can make your own colours, clear is always good because whatever you put it over, it obviously takes on that colour as well. So let's just heat that. Oh, there we go. So we've now got our two lovely leaves, our lovely flowers, and our main little, I mean, that's a nice little collection there. So I'm going to grab another piece of cream card. She says it was here. Oh, I've put the double-sided tape on top of it. That's quite a heavy pile of double-sided tape. Right. So just having them off like that. But I do think we need something down here. So we've obviously got this nice embossing powder here. We could use double-sided tape and go with embossing powder down there, or we could, hang on, just a thought, let's stamp, no, not that one, let's stamp these along the bottom. And because we've used fine powder this time, we can use it with stamps. We're used to sort of making our own colours and mixing around with mica and stuff like that with ultra thick. But when it's fine powder, obviously we can still use it like a conventional embossing powder in conjunction with our stamping. I just think this might create a really nice border. Really must find a better pot than the lid for my... No wonder I get confused when I'm doing things. Worse will be if I put the lid back on the ink pad. I have actually got a spare lid underneath. I'll remember to pick that up. Also, look how different this colour looks when it's on white. Gives it a very, very different, although it has the same tone, with a cream or a white behind it, it just is more subtle, much more subtle. I think that creates quite a nice little border there. So there we go. Just breaks up that background a little bit. So we've got our topper, and I think I now am drawn to that top corner of having some little bits there, little one there. Still, yes, you can add salt to any embossing powder, but and it will make it textured. Just a small amount. The other thing you can do is, while it's melted, like your ultra thick, you can sprinkle it on the top there, and then you can knock it off when it's cooled, and it'll have like little dents in it. That's kind of a cool way of doing it as well. Just going to put that lid on there before I forget. Yeah, so yes, you can. And into ultra thick. Do we want something down here? Now I have got something I just don't think. No, it doesn't work. I think actually I'm going to leave that like that for now, because I don't know. Do I want something there? Maybe a bit of, I know what I want. Right, let's get this taped up. This is an unusual one. Look, I'm actually finishing a project, and I'm not finishing it tomorrow and taking a picture for you. It's like a whole new me. But I do love this sort of vintagey feel, and that you get from when you glaze things with ultra thick. It just gives a very unique feel, because you can obviously use glossy accents and stuff like that, but there's nothing quite like embossing powder for that feel. Okay. I am going to use wet glue for these. Oh, if I can get any glue out of the bottle. Unlikely. Just realised it had a very bent end. Let's see if there's any in there. Oh, no, come on. I didn't check my glues. Although every time I check them, what inevitably happens is in the time it takes me to actually use it, it's clogged back up again. Right, that into there. We're going to put a little bit here. Oh, I'll tell you what I was going to do before I put that down. I wanted something hanging down, so I'm going to do a little sort of thing, going to make sort of like, almost like a sort of a tassel. No, that's too much. Let's just cut that in half. And so I don't have to, and then I'm going to unravel it, just to give it a sort of fluffy feel to it. I love this garden twine. Anybody that knows me knows I use this a lot. You know, sometimes you don't want ribbon. And again, it's got that sort of old feel. Lace would look nice if you're doing something very sort of feminine, girly, pretty. But this has kind of got like a bit of an earthy feel to it, which is why leaves and twine is kind of nice. I think I'll have that one there. I also would be tempted to put a button in the middle of that flower instead of a gem or something like that. A button I think would be, and then that one coming under there. And then we've got this one, which I'm going to curl it a little bit, because when I lay it flat, it's just a bit too well matched that it actually starts to disappear. So all I'm doing is I'm just bending up the petals a little bit to make it sort of stand a little bit more proud. And I would, if I had some more die cuts of those leaves, I would add those in as well to there. But there you go, you've got a very simple, well, let me clear some space so you can see. Oh, dearie me. Right, let's turn it to that one. And then if I do that, and I do that, so you can see you've got that lovely vintage feel. I love that way. It just takes it back a little bit, but it does make the VersaFine pop a little bit more. So the lines are more defined, but you've just got that not sun-kissed, but sun-faded. You know, like it's been hung on the wall for a very long time. Okay. So we've got 10 minutes. Let's have a little play with, I did just hint at them. I just clear a little space. I die cut some leaves, and they're sort of like a triptych. It's more of an aperture one. I kind of like it. I don't know. Wasn't what I was expecting, but so I'm going to come in with some more double-sided tape. I'm going to put it behind. Bear with me, I'm just going to be cutting, I'm just going to be trying to get the back off here. Okay. Fingers appear to have stopped working. Okay. And I'm going to trim off. Oh, that was cut a bit too small. Might have to just put a little bit extra behind there, because can you see I've missed a tiny little bit there. Might use tape for that, just to fill in the gap. Hi Elaine. So there we go. Right, so we've got all the sticky exposed. So let's do some smidgens of gilding flake. Just smidgens. Okay. Just rub that in. Work those little bits in, but I'm trying not to cover all the sticky. Okay, then I do want to get rid of those stray bits, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and sprinkle. So I'm sprinkling this time because I know I'm going to get gilding flake in this embossing, and I don't want to contaminate my big pot with gilding flake. So I'm just going to do that. And also, where's my pot? There's my special one we made. Let's work that in as well. So I can tip that into my homemade one. And because I've been rubbing the gilding flake in, I'm working this in with my finger so that I can make sure the embossing powder is really getting in to those little gaps. So that can go in there, and you can see how much gilding flake and stuff came off. Right, let's heat set that. Okay, it's going to take a little while, and patience is a virtue. You can see it starting to go shiny. There it goes. And then I'm going to peel off the backing, stick that on. Oh, because it's warm, that's a bit harder to do. Should have stuck it onto paper before. Yeah, don't leave it on the backing because it goes really warm and sticky. So do as I say, not as I do. I'm going to have to let that cool down, but then I would peel that off and stick it on. But actually what you want to do is stick it down onto your card before you do that. But you've got these lovely little apertures that you've captured the embossing powder and stuff in. But yes, because I've left it on, because what I did previously, there is one kicking about that I did. And because it's warm, that has gone so super sticky. So you'll just need to let it cool down, and then I'll peel that off and stick it on to a piece of card, mat and layer it up. And then you've got that lovely, real interesting, because you've got the gilding flake, you've got the embossing powder, you've got a really lovely sort of different look, kind of like marble-esque in its way. So yeah, so that's what we've been playing with this evening. So quick refresher. We had our lovely set of stamps. We've had our massive pot of clear embossing powder. We've been using our mica powders, which you get 10 different colours of. Plenty. You've seen how far they go, and I don't just mean all over the desk here. We've been using our gilding flake. Remembering it is the post-out pots we use now, not the big pots. We've been using our double-sided tape, which is all on the website. I think that's a pretty busy evening. So, some dates for you now. Hang on, I'll look at you while I'm doing this. So, some dates for you. So, this Saturday, I've got a paper crafting workshop, an in-person one. So if you want to catch us on that one, we've still got a few spaces available on that. Then next Wednesday, back here for Facebook Live at 7. Thursday, I'm over in Daventry teaching a bookbinding workshop at a bookshop, which I think is really cool. And then it's getting busy. So April kicks off with really busy. April the 9th. This Facebook Live will not be at 7 o'clock. It'll be at 6 o'clock, and it won't be here. I'll be here in this location, but it'll be streaming out on another location, if you know what I mean. 10th, I'm back on at Hobby Maker, and Paul's designing a fabulous kit. No, it's not a telephone box, but he did say he might do a telephone box shelving unit. I'm working on it. But no, really cute new kit to come in April. So thank you very much for watching, and I will... online workshops. This weekend's bookbinding one proved really, really popular, and thank you to everybody that did it. So much so that they bullied me into offering an extra bookbinding workshop in June. Haven't set a date for it yet, which will be it won't be a repeat of the one we did last week. It will be something new. We've also got a stamping one coming up in April if you want to do that. It's 10 till 2. You don't have to watch live, but it's nice if you do, because you can ask questions and join in and chat and everything. Yes, I will see you on Saturday, Maria. Got some things to play with. So yes, we will see you same time, same place next week, Wednesday, 7 o'clock. And in the meantime, have a good week, and we will see you soon. Take care.